What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast. I am, of course, your host, Ethan Smith. Joining me, as always, every Monday is the awesome Gary Morgan of the DK Pitt Podcast Network and Bucks in the Basement. And, guys, we're back to 5 episodes a week all the way through Christmas. It's going to be a very fun time. And on today's episode, Gary and I are going to talk about what we liked and what we didn't like from the first 3 games of spring training. And there was a lot to talk about with these first couple games and some interesting tidbits about a certain player that is just not seen right now at all. But today's episode, of course, is brought to you by BetOnline. They are where the game starts, and they are your website for all of your betting needs. And we have a new intro, so enjoy, and me and Gary will see you right in a second.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, yeah. Not entirely different. Not entirely different intro, but no more countdown, no more of that stuff. But the countdown is finally over to getting 5 episodes a week again. Of course, I am your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most. That is Gary to my right. Gary, how are you today, man? How did you enjoy finally getting to watch some Pirates baseball again?
Oh, I'm good, man. And it's so nice to be able to talk about actual baseball instead of even if we'll have baseball. I can't even tell you how refreshing it is.
Mm-hmm. And it's great because, as I mentioned last week, whenever games were about to start, I said that like a lot of the questions that we have are just going to have more questions along them. We're going to get answers to these questions, and I'm going to be here alongside the ride the whole time. And this weekend, there was a lot of fun stuff to talk about, so I figured we'll start today's episode talking about the things that we liked in spring training. And I think just to go ahead and get the elephant in the room out of the way, a certain 6'7" shortstop hit a home run off of one knee the other day. Oneil Cruz just looked phenomenal to me. I know it's a small sample size defensively as well, but he looked pretty fresh at shortstop defensively as well. So what were your thoughts on what we saw from the dinosaur that is Oneil Cruz?
I mean, I guess I could just join the band and say how great he was and everything, but let me just take a few counterpoints because most people aren't going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the balls is not his problem. It never has been at shortstop. It's uncorking that arm and throwing it across the diamond. He's got an 80 tool arm, but he doesn't have 80 control accuracy on throwing the ball, and we haven't seen that yet. We've seen him flip to second. We've seen him throw to Hayes at third. We haven't seen him gun it across the diamond yet, and I was never worried about him getting the balls. I'm worried about him throwing the ball. So there's that. And the home run, amazing. Killer power. He's got power for days. That's insane. It's very similar to the home run he hit in his brief call-up to the majors that, I was actually at the game for. Really looked almost exactly the same, dropping to a knee and swinging at a ball way too low. That's kind of the point. You don't want him swinging at that ball.
No.
And I know he hit it out, but even he afterwards was like, I don't know how I made contact with that. Well, okay. Unless you're Vlad Guerrero Sr., that's not something that you want in your game. So I think that he's exciting, and everybody wants him up here, and I get that. And I think he could learn up here too. But let's maybe pump the brakes on he should absolutely not go back to AAA for a minute.
Yeah.
And I understand where everyone's head and heart is, but,
And one of the points I wanted to make with him, as well as Roenzi Contreras, who we also got to see yesterday, and boy, his stuff looked electric yesterday for the most part. It's very fun when you walk a batter and you still finish the inning with 13 pitches. That's always something nice to see. But also, one of the things that I think a lot of people are forgetting to realize, and there's even another player in this that I'll throw in there in a second, is both of these guys were in Double-A for most of the year last year. They were in Altoona. Making the jump from Double-A to Major League Baseball at the snap of a finger is not easy. It's not an easy thing at all. That is a very different, broad spectrum of levels. So that's why I always tell people, yes, would it be fun to see O'Neal Cruz and Roenzi up here right away? Of course it would. It'd be phenomenal to see them up here. But would you rather them get a little bit of time in AAA and then come up here and actually be productive? Or would you rather have to hear people say, why are these guys up here when they clearly aren't ready? We also saw this with Rodolfo Castro last year making the jump from AA to MLB. He looked fine in some stints, but he was also clearly not ready for full MLB time yet. So that's something that I did like as well. There's other things that there was also to like. Brian Reynolds, of course, was hitting the baseball for base hits. Nothing new there. Outside of that, though, I mean, Ke'Bryan Hayes looks a lot more healthy. I don't know if that's like anything that like piqued anybody's interest, but to me, he just looked fresher than he has lately. I'm expecting hopefully a huge season from him like everybody else is. But also the pitching is just very, like, it looked pretty solid outside of yesterday, which we'll get into in the next segment. But also, man, there's some pop in this lineup early. I know it's early and it's only 3 games, but the Pirates didn't have a 4-home run game at all last year, and they hit 7 in 2 games in the first 2 days. I mean, it's nice to see.
I know. It's Bradenton. And
it is, yeah.
I mean, there were some of them that were really legitimate home runs, but there's some of them that were fairly windblown.
The wind.
Know? But I think if you just want to just finish up who we were impressed by, kind of hard to not be impressed by Cole Tucker. He's making a different kind of contact. And, I make jokes about home runs and everything, but his home run was legit. I mean, he hit that. It was gone.
Yeah.
And but he's hitting the ball harder, and he looks bulked up, and he's needed to do that for a couple seasons. So nice to see that out of him. I've been impressed by Greg Allen.
Yes. 100%.
I think Greg Allen's he's looked a lot better than Alfred to me. And I certainly don't think that Alfred should go into this season thinking that he's got a spot, because I'm not sold on that. But not bad. Really pretty good on the offensive side. A lot of people have stepped up. Kevin Newman's new swing looks better. He looks like he's making better contact when he gets a hold of it too. So let's see.
Oh yeah, and also Gary, by the way, for anybody that didn't know, made a phenomenal point. And I wanted to actually say this on the pod, too. If you don't like a player and he's playing well, just let him play well. Like, who cares? If you want O'Neal Cruz over Kevin Newman, sure, most people do, including myself. But if Kevin Newman goes out there and hits 275 and brings a Gold Glove, like, defense again at the shortstop position, I'm not going to bench him. I don't think Derek Shelton would either. But there was a lot to be impressed by throughout today. And while we were here as well, at the time of recording, we do have a lineup, a card again that features Anthony Alford, Brian Reynolds, Daniel Vogelbach, Yoshi Tsutsugo, Rodolfo Castro, Ben Gamel, O'Neal Cruz, Nick Gonzalez, and I believe his name is John Ritchie. Yes, I know you like John Ritchie a lot, and I also believe it's Zach Thompson that will be on the mound to start today. That'll be a fun spring training game again, and there's spring training games going on at all times. And before we get into what we didn't like this weekend, I wanted to let you guys know about BetOnline. BetOnline is where the game starts. They are our sponsor of today's episode. It is that time of year again as college basketball tournament is finally upon us. If you want to go bet on St. Peter's like I did the other night to do money line against Murray State, you can do that. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for all of your sports betting needs and info. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season, and it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action, and BetOnline is where the game starts. Now, usually the more interesting part, I would say, about talking about what we did like and what we didn't like is what did we not like this weekend, Gary? And I'll let you start on some things that you thought that you just saw that were just kind of concerning.
Well, first, I hope you're being sarcastic. I don't know anything about Richie. I hope he's better than Michael Perez.
I mean, I think we all do.
And really, as far as bad goes, Michael Perez. The at bats I've watched him take this spring, and yeah, it's early. Just he doesn't look like he's ever swung a bat before. Just brutal at bats. I mean, I was done with him before this started. I am even more done with him now. It just cannot go into the season with him as a backup. I'm convinced. And I think really there haven't been a whole lot of like huge negatives. Like even the pitching has kind of held up. Bryce Wilson had a little bit of a rough outing yesterday. I wasn't pleased with the way the ball was coming out of his hand. I didn't really like a lot of what I saw from him. And you know, it's possible that some of us have maybe made him a lock for the rotation a little bit earlier than we should have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see. He just was real shaky. Dylan Peters got hit, but I really liked how he came back from it. I really thought the home run that he gave up was a pretty good pitch. Yeah. So I don't know. I think Dylan Peters is doing Dylan Peters things. He doesn't throw the ball especially hard, but he looked good. There really haven't been a whole lot of negatives. I just haven't seen much from Anthony Alford, really. You know, but I didn't expect to see anything from Anthony Alford. Roberto Perez, I don't think he's stopping a lot of balls. Am I wrong? I mean, that he's letting some balls get past him, and that's kind of, if you're not going to be the two-time Gold Gloving catcher, man, that's that makes the catching position even scarier to me.
Yeah, and that's a cause for concern because, I mean, at the end of the day, if Roberto Perez is going to give you something, you would like to have, as you just mentioned, that two-time Gold Glove defense. Now, I mean, you're not expecting it to that level, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting too because yeah, some of the pitches were just bad pitches, but also when Pirates fans like myself are accustomed to seeing Jacob Stallings literally not give up a pass ball last year, seeing multiple pass balls in one game, you're just like, oh, this is a little weird. And
I'm not going to say any of those pitches were easy to handle. They were bouncing them in the dirt in front of the home plate, and I get that. Believe me, it's crazy what Jacob Stallings and Michael Perez, to be fair, did last year as far as like stopping that from happening. But to see it from somebody with the reputation that Roberto Perez has, I don't like seeing it. And maybe it's just spring, and this is part of his process. I'm not going to overwork myself to stop a pass ball in spring.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Just discomforting to see it, and you really hope that guy can handle 75 games and do it well.
Yeah. And I mean, again, when we're talking about things that we don't like as well, is I think that's just one of the things that I wanted to bring up about spring training, especially this one, is one, Derek Shelton has never had a normal spring training as the Pirates general manager. Let's just get that straight. Like, I realized that yesterday. 2020, nope. 2021, kind of, no. And then this year, shortened. In the shortened spring training, and one of the things I just don't like about it, like this is just one of the things that I'll say about just not having enough spring training, is we talk about a lot of these young guys in the position battles and all that stuff and wanting to see them, but you're not going to get to see everybody in this shortened time because the MLB guys have to get ready, and a lot of people understand that. Some people don't, but a lot of these guys, like a Diego Castillo, who we got our eyes on, like a Tucupita Marcano, who that home run was also a pretty nice home run as well.
It was oppo power too, so yeah.
It was everybody was like, yeah, Adam Frazier's not doing that. You know, I was like, honestly, who cares? Adam Frazier's so far gone from the Pirates at this point. But anyways, you talked to me about it, and I saw that you tweeted about it yesterday, and I wanted to bring this up, is where is Travis Swaggerty?
Yeah, your guess is as good as mine.
He's just not in the lineup. Like, we've even seen Cal Mitchell. We've seen Kanan Smith-Njigba. We've seen Jack Sawinski, Greg Allen, Anthony Alford, and Travis Swaggerty. I mean, I don't even think he's been on the social media. Like, I don't think he's been on the social media page at all.
I haven't seen hide nor hair. I haven't
Yeah.
seen so much as a game note. Nothing. And before spring, I think the last time I heard from him was when you interviewed him.
Yeah.
And, he claimed, at least to you, that he was healthy. So I'm a little concerned. Maybe the Pirates just didn't have eyes on him,
Mhm.
and then they got to look at him and, hey, something's not right here, or maybe he started taking some swings and tweaked something. But the longer they don't say anything, the more questions we'll have. And I'm quite sure, as these things work, it's not like I have some kind of magic power, but there's a reason that I put questions like that out there, because somebody will ask it, and we'll get to the point where we figure it out. But he's supposed to be your next guy up. Out of
Yeah.
every prospect, he's supposed to be the guy who's most ready. And that scares me, because now you're going to the next level of outfielders that could potentially come up and help patch a hole that you intentionally left.
Hmm.
So
Very
if he's
true.
not ready, I got more questions about why you didn't patch that hole.
Yeah. And I mean, that's another big thing to talk about here is like a lot of people are very excited with what we've seen over this first couple days, but it's the first 3 days of spring training. Let's also remember there's still holes on this lineup that, for all intents and purposes, Ben Cherington may not have said it directly, but he did say that he wanted to fix these things. And I mean, I'm already going to go out and say it right now. I know this is the "we didn't like" segment of this, like, or supposed to be. I love the Daniel Vogelbach signing. I think it's phenomenal. I know he's probably going to have a lot of strikeouts, and I hate strikeouts from hitters. But at the end of the day, like if he gives us 15 home runs, I call that a win.
See,
And
I've heard that. You're the third or fourth person that I've heard say that. I'm not seeing that in his numbers. I see a really
15.
good, like the strikeouts.
Oh,
I see a pretty good on base percentage guy. Walks a lot. Um, his average isn't high, but his on base percentage is in the 330s a lot of the
hmm,
time. That's okay.
yeah, I'm cool with
You
that.
know, is he a great signing? No.
No,
Were they wise for the way they structured it? Absolutely. If he goes off and hits 30 home runs this year like he did in 2019, without a juiced ball, but let's say he takes full advantage of that Clemente wall. If he does that, they've got him locked up next year. If he
yep,
doesn't and he stinks and they want to get rid of him, he's gone. Like it's going to cost him a total of $1 million for just having that right. It's a safe, easy signing, and
yeah.
he's a good insurance policy in case Yoshi isn't there.
Oh yeah, and then of course Michael Chavis, who apparently a lot of the Pirates announcers just seem to love, is also over there right now as well. And before we get into our final segment today, where we're going to talk about pretty much anything that we want to still see from spring training, I want to let you guys know that sometimes you're a little tired. And me, it's going to be a 5 episode a week deal for 7 months. So sometimes I'm going to need a pick me up. I'm going to need a built bar. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. They're low calorie and high protein. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar and net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Mint brownie, coconut, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They are all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. And if you think a flavor might be good, they'll make it. It will be delicious, and it will be good for you. Go to built.com right now. Use the promo code LOCK15 in all caps and get 15% off of your order. And when you invest in the best protein bars on planet Earth. Now, we still have some time before we get to opening day. And I always think that's fun. Also, very interesting, I guess, kind of breaking news, but Greg Brown is now a follower of the podcast on
There
here.
you go.
I guess it was from that tweet I sent last night. But anyways, we still have a lot of spring training left, a lot of things to see. Is there anything in particular that you want to see over these next couple of weeks before we get to April 7th and opening day?
Really just got to get through the rotation options, and there's a whole lot of them still. So I'd like to see a few more of them, get a little bit of a stretched out look.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they might have to get serious about that sooner than we normally would in spring, though. Like, as much as I want to see Rowanzi, if he's not going to make this club, or you're not going to really give him a shot to make this club, don't waste a whole lot of innings in the spring on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get him where he belongs, and get this moving in the right direction to figure out what you got. As far as the bats go, I think Michael Chavez is probably somebody that needs to get a lot of at bats here. I don't know that he has a natural spot right now. A lot of people wanted to anoint him the second baseman, but I think Tucker's got to be the leader in the clubhouse for that. And first base is clogged. So I don't know. I don't know what you do with him if if he doesn't make that, because he can play a little outfield. He's not really somebody you want out there.
Mm-hmm.
He can play third base. I think that's occupied. And, there's always room for a utility guy. But I don't know. He's a guy that needs to show it, and they need to give him an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and the DH makes it even more interesting with first base now because at the end of the day, Vogelbach and Tsutsugo could be in the lineup at the same time. That then even takes another spot away from Chavis because naturally you would probably see a DH there. But it's good. Like I said, somebody asked me who the DH was going to be. I said it's more than likely going to be Yoshi Tsutsugo or Daniel Vogelbach more times than not. But Derek Shelton in an interview did say that the DH might be just a fluid thing, which it probably will be. You'll probably see a lot of different guys in that spot all the time, and that's one thing I want to actually see and talk about pretty soon as well. Is just through the first couple weeks of the season and even through the spring training, how the Pirates handle having the DH position for the first time. Again, I just mainly think Yoshi and Vogelbach will probably occupy that spot, but who's to say when O'Neill Cruz comes up that if Kevin Newman and Cole Tucker are playing well, you bring up O'Neill Cruz at some point in like May or June, and he's your DH. I don't think anybody would have an issue with that.
I think we're all going to be bored by how they handle it, because just the few interviews that we've had to listen to Derek Shelton and even Ben Cherington talk about the DH position, they've both went out of their way to mention that the DH position has evolved over the years. It's no longer just a DH guy brought in most of the time to be the DH. It's more of a rotating position used to rest guys and things like that. So I think you're going to be seeing somebody like Brian Reynolds get a DH spot every once in a while, and Brian Hayes, and I think it'll be a way to get somebody else in the field and active, and take a little bit of stress off of guys. Maybe we'll see less of those 2-3 rest day weeks for some of the regulars, and that could be a good thing. We've often complained, well, why does Brian Hayes need to have a day off on Saturday? He's only 20 some years old. He doesn't need to be off after 4 days. So maybe the DH will be used like that.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be fun as well because me and you talked about it when it first came out. It's just going to open up at bats for more people. More players will get more at bats now, and that's why I was never opposed to it. Now I know for people who may listen to this podcast that are like they're used to the NL and the AL not having it, grew up that way. That's just how it always was. At the end of the day, the game has changed. I mean, I really would not care to see Dylan Peters go 0 for 3 in a game and just sit with the bat on his shoulder like this and not swing at anything. That's just not fun. And I guess one of the things that I am looking forward to this year, as this is the first episode of the 5-episode week model again for me, is I'm just looking for some fun stuff this year. And me and you have talked about it ad nauseum that 2022 is going to be a very fun year for the Pirates because it's not going to be like last year where there was really not too many prospects to look forward to and not too many things to talk about. But this year, I mean, there's how many guys would you say that could possibly come up this year? Maybe 5 or 6 at
Oh,
least,
I
maybe
mean,
more than that.
probably more than that. I think when we say fun, I think just because we're smart guys who deal with people on social media a lot, we should probably go ahead and preface that. We mean fun for us, like
Yeah.
getting to see prospects come up. For instance, I think they could win 7 more games this year than they did last year, and I would still consider it fun if I got to see a lot of these prospects come up and start to entrench themselves so that I know 2023 is going to be better.
Yeah.
That's what's fun for me. And what's fun for me is knowing there's a hole in the outfield and not assuming I have to scour the waiver wire to see who's there and hopefully pick up somebody else's scraps. I have 4 or 5 guys in the minors who could come up and do it. And that's the sort of thing that I think is different this year that was not there last year. Basically, that feeling of hopelessness is kind of going to go away this year. There are options now. If Kevin Newman is in May hitting 119 and really serving no purpose besides being a glove, well, you got O'Neal Cruz. He can come up. You got Cole Tucker. He can move over. You got options. So there's ways to go about it, and I think it's a better constructed team than it's been.
Yeah, 100%. And then not even to mention the amount of pitchers you're probably going to see this year, too. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Gary had a whole episode on that, like I believe like a month and a half ago, about the amount of pitchers that we could see. I mean, you hear about the regulars, like, Quintana's going to get a spot. Dylan Peters probably, maybe, we'll see. But, I mean, really outside of Quintana and maybe Brubaker and Keller, you don't really know. And Mitch Keller, by the way, thank God he is fine after taking that line drive shot to the leg. I got so scared when that happened.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here we go. He's going
Boy,
to
did he look different.
Yeah.
Boy, did he look different. Just he looked at a different approach. Like, that look he used to get on his face? Like, and I know it's spring. There's no pressure or anything. But there's just something different about the way he approached his outing. And I don't know, there's a confidence there. Just seemed to know what he wanted to do as opposed to waiting to be told what to do. And I liked it. I like what I've seen. And boy, does it change the game if Mitch Keller turns into something. I can't even describe how much faster everything's going to come together if that works.
Oh, yeah. But, hey, Gary, most people wouldn't call it a success because he didn't throw 100.9 miles per hour.
That's fine.
I'm like, honest. I loved it. I thought he looked good. The only thing that was like worrisome to me, and this is just me being nitpicky with Mitch Keller because I've just grown to be nitpicky with Mitch Keller. Some of the command on his like breaking pitches looked a little off, but I mean that happens every once in a while to even the best pitchers. But the fastball was really where I was impressed. I mean, it looked like the glove was here because you taught me this now. Now, this is fun. This is why I love having Gary on the podcast. Instead of watching the pitcher half the time, I watch where the glove is now. Because I remember you told me that you did that, and I do that now, and that's how I kind of base off of, okay, did he miss a spot or not? He was throwing it right there. It looked good. And, I mean, I think the biggest thing was, though, he's throwing faster, but he's also adding movement to his fastball. Right. It doesn't matter if you're throwing a 98-mile-per-hour straight fastball because that's just going to get killed every single time it gets hit. But if there's movement on that fastball, which it looked like there was, that's very good to see. And like you said, I mean, I think some people forget to realize this, but Mitch Keller at one point was a top 100 prospect in all of baseball. People tend to forget that. And he's only pitched, and this is a wild thing to say, in his 3 years with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he has pitched 170 innings. That is barely a full season. Maybe a little bit more.
If you come out of this season and Mitch Keller has put his flag in the soil that he is a piece, and Roansy Contreras comes up here and shows he's a piece, maybe one more, It's hard to think that they're going to go into 2023 and not think maybe it's addition time.
Yeah.
Might have to think about it.
Yeah.
You get your pitching staff to that point, there's really no reason to not go.
Yeah,
So,
honestly. And that's why I think the Mitch Keller thing is a very big, important thing. And going to talk about that tomorrow on the episode. It'll be just me. But we're going to talk about Mitch Keller and some other things on tomorrow's episode. Of course, thank you all for tuning into the Locked On Pirates podcast, always, as you always do on Monday mornings. Hopefully you made me and Gary your first listen of the day. And hopefully you do every single day here at the Locked On Pirates podcast. But Gary, what do you have on the docket over at Bucks in the Basement and with DK Pittsburgh Sports?
Obviously, the Pirates Fan Forum is this Friday. The YouTube drop is at 8 p.m., but the audio is out all day. It's our 1-year anniversary on the network. So, yeah, come celebrate with us. Inside the Bucks Basement, 5 Thoughts at 5 will be up today at 5. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, and I was also on the Bridge to Bucktober podcast, so check that out cool, today guys. If you'd like to.
Oh, yeah, of course. And you guys already know it's going to be a fun time here at Locked On Pirates. We have spring training action again today. I'll be watching that before I go to work, probably more than likely. It was a fun weekend of Pirates baseball. Wish I could have got down there, but things happen. It's all good. But until next time, guys, we will see Gary next Monday. But until next time with me, you will see me tomorrow, and I will see you guys on the flip side.